This past weekend, I visited the home of Thomas Jefferson, the writer of the Declaration of Independence and the third President of the United States. Jefferson named his home Monticello, which means little mountain in Italian. It is located near Charlottesville, Virginia, in the United States, which is about 115 miles from Washington, D.C., and it is a UNESCO World Heritage Site. Jefferson designed every aspect of Monticello, a Roman neoclassical style mansion. Beginning in 1769, he spent 40 years constructing and modifying Monticello's buildings and landscape. In addition to Jefferson's obvious contributions as one of the founding fathers of the United States, Jefferson also studied science, architecture, horticulture, paleontology, archaeology, astronomy, and was an inventor. He used Monticello as a laboratory to explore his many interests, as well as invent ways to make life more efficient and convenient. A visit to Monticello gives great insight into Jefferson's interests and passions, as well as the times in which he lived. Monticello was not only his home, but served as a museum of his collections and library for his many books. The historic site of Monticello offers house tours as well as specialized tours addressing plantation life in the late 18th and early 19th century, as well as the history of slavery at Monticello, a very controversial issue to this day in light of Jefferson's penning, "All men are created equal." The items on display at Monticello are very much the same today as they were when Jefferson lived there. In the entrance hall of the home, Jefferson displayed Native American objects given as diplomatic gifts to Meriwether Lewis and William Clark on their expedition to the Pacific Ocean, a journey planned by President Jefferson. The Native American objects were displayed amid Jefferson's collection of European art, maps, bones, fossils, horns, and skins of extinct and living North American animals. It is a strange juxtaposition of items, but demonstrates Jefferson's interests in European art, mainly portraits, collected during his years as minister to France, as well as his fascination with the natural artifacts and aboriginal crafts of his young country. Jefferson loved to read and wrote, "I cannot live without books." His bookroom was of great importance to him. After the U.S. Capitol in Washington, D.C. was burned during the War of 1812, Jefferson sold his library to the nation, and it became the nucleus of the present Library of Congress. After the sale, he began collecting books again, but much of this later collection was sold after his death to pay his debts. Today, all the same titles and editions as the originals have been reunited in Jefferson's bookroom at Monticello. By looking at these titles, one can learn a great deal about Jefferson's literary influences. Also on display in various rooms of the house are Jefferson's inventions. A compass installed in the ceiling of the portico connected to a weather vane on the roof, enabling him to determine wind direction simply by looking out the window at the compass. The great clock in the entrance hall, which not only displays the time but also the day of the week. And a copying machine called a polygraph, which by the use of two pens made exact copies of Jefferson's letters as he wrote them. As described above, visiting Monticello is more than just a house tour. Jefferson used his home as a museum, library, and laboratory. The items on display are varied and reflect his life, his passions, his collections, and his inventions. It is not a typical home or museum where one particular style or aesthetic is carefully chosen and carried throughout the entire house or collection. Monticello tells the story of Jefferson's life as a farmer, a scholar, an inventor, an ambassador, an architect, and a slave owner. It is a popular destination for American school children since it covers such a wide variety of subjects: farm life, slavery, American independence. The particular day I visited there were activities for children, including crafts and games from the Jeffersonian era. I would definitely recommend a visit to Monticello, particularly for people who are interested in history and architecture. Its historical value is obvious as the home of an early American president. Jefferson's Monticello was also an early American experiment in European architectural techniques and styles, which Jefferson also repeated at the University of Virginia, the school that he founded and designed and also cherished as one of his greatest achievements. Sources used in this project were my own photos, Virginia's Historic Homes and Gardens by Pat and Chuck Blackley, a pamphlet, Monticello Guide for Visitors, www.monticello.org, and Google Maps.